Praise the Lord. Welcome to this series titled Miracles from the Bible. I am Dr. Johnson, Cherian. I will be reading a passage from Mark chapter 8. Verse 1 onwards, in those days the multitude being very great and having nothing to eat, Jesus called his disciples to him and said to them, I have compassion on the multitude because they have now continued with me 3 days and have nothing to eat. And if I send them away hungry to their own houses, they will faint on the way, for some of them have come from afar. Then his disciples answered him, How can one satisfy these people with bread here in the wilderness? He asked them, How many loaves do you have? And they said, 7. So he commanded the multitude to sit down on the ground, and he took the 7 loaves, and he gave thanks, broke them, and gave them to his disciples to set before them. And they set them before the multitude. They also had a few small fish. And having blessed them, he said to set them also before them. So they ate and were filled, and they took up 7 large baskets of leftover fragments. Now those who had eaten were about 4,000, and he sent them away, immediately got into the boat with his disciples and came to the region of Dalmanutha. Those are verses 1 to 10 from Mark chapter 8. In Mark chapter 6 also we read about Jesus feeding a great multitude. Around 5,000 people were there at that time. Here, he is in the region of Decapolis, that is 10 cities, and a great multitude had gathered and they had nothing to eat, and Jesus tells his disciples that I have compassion on these people, that they have been with me for 3 days and they have not eaten anything. If I send them away hungry, they may faint on the way, because many of them had come from very far places. And the disciples, they answer, How can one satisfy these people with bread here in the wilderness? We see the spiritual dullness of the disciples here, or we can say that they had witnessed a miracle before a few days, but they were not willing to accept the fact that Jesus was able to do another great miracle for another great multitude. Maybe they must have thought that it was a one-time miracle, and that's why they answer Jesus and say, How can one satisfy these people with bread here in the wilderness? They could have said, Jesus, you did a miracle before, you can do again. And he asked them, How many loaves do you have? And they said, 7. And again he commands the multitude to sit on the ground, takes the 7 loaves, gives thanks, he breaks them and gives them to the disciples to set before the multitude. And they had also a few small fish. And he multiplied those also and gave it to his disciples, and they set it before the people. So they all ate and were filled, and they took up 7 large baskets of leftover fragments. So Jesus again does a great miracle here because of his compassion. We don't see people coming and asking him for food, but he himself says, I have compassion on this great multitude, because they have been with me here for 3 days. Jesus knew that they were hungry. And if they went away without eating, they would faint on the way. So he has compassion and he does a great miracle for this great multitude. They were around 4,000 people, is what Mark writes. In Mark chapter 6, we read about Jesus feeding another great multitude of 5,000. And this miracle is mentioned in all the 4 Gospels, but feeding of the 4,000 is mentioned in Matthew and Mark. We must always remember that Jesus is able to do great and wonderful miracles for us time and again. If he has blessed us financially in the past, he can do it today also, and he can do it in the future also. Jesus is Almighty. After his resurrection, he said, Behold, all authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. So let us not limit ourselves regarding Jesus in our thinking. Let us always remember that what he has done in the past, he is able to do for us today and also in the future. Fix your eyes on Jesus, the author and finisher of your faith, and show your faith to Jesus. He will keep doing miracles in your life too. May God bless you with these thoughts this day. Praise the Lord.